This is a podcast about new crops. You're going to love it. Join us on The Cutting Edge, a podcast in search of new crops for Wisconsin.
The interesting part about this business is I tell people over and over again that we haven't even come close to reaching a saturation point where we're going to have to lower our prices. I honestly don't see prices going down for the next 20, 30 years.
Welcome to The Cutting Edge, a podcast in search of new crops for Wisconsin. I'm Jason Fischbach, your host today, and this is the third part in our chestnut series. And today we're going to focus on processing and marketing chestnuts with Roger Smith, who runs Prairie Grove Chestnut Growers. Okay.
All right.
So, Roger, do you want to introduce yourself and how you're involved with chestnuts?
My name's Roger Smith. I live in Columbus Junction, Iowa, southeast Iowa. I've been started planting chestnuts in 2003, and I started I took over the marketing arm. We have a group of 68 growers in 3 states, Illinois, Missouri, Iowa. I took over the marketing arm and processing arm in 2014, and we have grew from marketing 25,000 chestnuts to close to 100,000 chestnuts.
Pounds of chestnuts, not individual chestnuts.
Yeah. Pounds of chestnuts.
Wow.
My background is in marketing. I worked for corporate America in a marketing avenue for over 30 years, and I find it challenging and interesting to do the marketing.
So maybe let's talk a little bit about your production side, and then we can get into the Prairie Grove. So you've been growing since 2003. Are you primarily growing Chinese chestnuts, or what kind of chestnuts?
Yes, we've been growing primarily Chinese chestnuts on my farm, and most of the growers that I deal with are Chinese chestnuts. I have one grower that has some European, and I got a spattering of American chestnut trees, maybe half a dozen throughout the growing area here.
Okay.
So, but it's 99% Chinese.
Tell me more of the history of Prairie Grove, how it got started, who was involved, who are the leaders, and maybe a little bit, because you're not actually a formal cooperative, right?
No, this is a brokerage company. It's not we're run as a cooperative, but it's basically a brokerage company.
Okay.
It started, like I said, it started in 2014. Tom Wall, a local grower here, he started the chestnut industry in this area back in the 1990s. And because of that, he would buy chestnuts from the people that planted the trees, so they had a market. But the problem Tom had, his facility isn't big enough to handle the volume, and he didn't want to expand. And so we had a meeting with all the growers in 2013 and trying to decide what we were going to do. There wasn't any interest in forming a co-op. So I agreed to try it, and I bought a building downtown and refurbished it, built a walk-in cooler, and created some processing tools, and we got started that way.
When growers start harvesting their chestnuts and they're going to sell to you, what are they doing post-harvest processing? And then what do you do? What's involved in chestnut processing?
Okay. Generally, the harvest starts somewhere around the 15th to 20th of September. I send out a newsletter in August to all the growers and all the people that are interested, outlining my ground rules for delivering chestnuts. And I'll go over as many as I can here, but sure. Basically I ask the growers to harvest chestnuts every day because they are a water-based nut. And if you leave them on the ground for more than a day, they're going to shrink. The animals are going to get into them. There'll be bite marks. And so we try to minimize the damage to the chestnut and increase the weight. I stress to the growers that they harvest daily, they'll get more money for their chestnuts because they're going to weigh more. So I ask them to harvest every day. I ask them to clean the chestnuts. It's easy to do. You can rinse them off, put them in a bucket and float them, take all the twigs and the dirt and the chaff off of it. So the chestnuts come in clean. When they do come in, and I ask them not to freeze the chestnuts. I've had instances where they want to hold the chestnuts and put them in a freezer, and if you freeze the fresh chestnut, they're no good. So anyhow, they bring them into my processing center, and they bring them in totes and buckets. What we do is we label each. They transfer them into my totes. We label each tote with their name and grower number. And then what I found works best, we sort the chestnuts through my sorting machine, and then we clean them. We kind of do it in reverse order, because if I clean them before they get into my sorting machine, they tend to, because they're moist, they tend to pick up dust in the air and through my machine, and I have to clean them again. So we sort, then we clean. Most of the chestnuts don't have to be cleaned. It's an eyeball thing, and if there's no dirt on them, I don't clean them. And then we, after we run them through the sorting machine, we weigh everything. We catalog that for the grower. Then we bag them in 25-pound bags. If they're going to be shipped through the mail post office, we put them in we put them in 10-pound perforated plastic bags. Then we put them in our walk-in cooler. And our business plan is to sell fresh chestnuts. And so we don't hold the chestnuts for very long. If the chestnuts are in my cooler for over 5 days, it's an odd experience. We've got customers. I'll back up here. Is there any questions you have about the processing before I get into the marketing end of it?
Yeah. So, in the hazelnut processing that we're doing, we harvest the nuts off directly off the shrubs. They never touch the ground. But in Oregon, they're swept off the ground, and there was some E. coli issues. So this must have been 5-6 years ago, and it totally upended their whole industry, because they had lots of collection nodes where people would bring, neighbors would work together to get them cleaned. And then there was just issues of, all the stuff coming off the orchard floor. So, so that's kind of carried over for us into the hazelnut world here in the Midwest. And I'm just curious, so what do you have to do from a licensing standpoint or food safety? Like, are you doing a sanitation step as part of that cleaning, like a disinfectant solution or something? Or how are you handling all that?
Well, we haven't done that yet. That's something that as we get larger, I'm going to put in place. Knock on wood, we've been doing this for 6 years. We never had an issue.
Right.
And like a lot of nuts, the customers, the most common method of eating a chestnut is roasting. Mm-hmm. So they're cooking the chestnuts. That's not to say somebody doesn't eat a fresh chestnut, but that would be rare. So we haven't incorporated anything like that into our processing center yet, but certainly that's something that our next step will be to do something like that. I will say we're on city water, mm-hmm. and it is chlorinated, although the chestnuts need a little bleach if you're going to sanitize them.
Sure.
We just haven't done that.
Gotcha. So is the sizing and cleaning considered food processing that you would need a license? And hazelnuts, as soon as we crack a hazelnut, we have to have a food processing plant license. But I suspect if you're not peeling them or roasting or just washing, you wouldn't, right?
Yeah, we first of all, we don't sell any chestnuts that are cracked or damaged. Yeah. We eyeball everything when we process them, and then when we bag them, we try to take all those out. And so we're not selling the edible chestnut. We're selling the edible chestnut with the outer shell on it.
All right. So let's go into marketing. I was looking on your website. So now is the time for people to be ordering chestnuts. Is that kind of how you've got your business set up, where you start taking pre-orders here in the fall and then ship as they come in?
Well, I have three different methods I use to market the chestnuts. The first method is for people to come down to my processing center, and they can purchase chestnuts where my plant is. And that has evolved over time. That went from about 100% my first year to now it represents about 20% of my sales are from people stopping in and purchasing chestnuts that way. The second method is my second method is delivering chestnuts to different areas of the Midwest where I gather orders before time, and then I deliver in a van at a specified time and place. And that has evolved to about 50% of my business.
Wow. And that's mainly to like ethnic communities. I think Tom was talking about Bosnians and others.
Yeah, that's mainly ethnic minority. Almost all are, I would say 95% of my sales are to ethnic minorities. They're either Bosnians, they're Greeks, they're Italians, they're Chinese, they're Koreans. They make up the bulk of my sales.
Gotcha.
And that's, and I'll wind this up later on, but the interesting part about this business is I tell people over and over again that we haven't even come close to reaching a saturation point where we're going to have to lower our prices. I honestly don't see prices going down for the next 20, 30 years. There is just a long time it takes such a long time to ramp up production, and the interest in chestnuts keeps on growing, and we're not even doing any advertising yet. And we haven't even touched the what I call the white Caucasian market. Most of those people don't even know what a chestnut is. So There's a lot of room for growth here. But right now, our marketing is to ethnic minorities that I outlined earlier, and we can't even supply all the needs they have. What we found is I deliver the chestnuts for a dime more, and it's a lot easier for me to deliver them than it is to have people come down there to my plant to buy chestnuts for a couple reasons. Number one, my supply changes day to day, and I ask people to call me before they stop down, because there's days we have nothing to sell, and then the next day we'll have 10,000 pounds of chestnuts in. So it varies considerably from day to day. And the second thing is when people come down, they want to talk to me, and we have about 7 people that work for me. And when we're busy, and it's very time consuming when people come down there. And I'm not trying to discount that I don't like people coming down there, but it makes it a little bit harder to run the whole process. And when I deliver the chestnuts, I can talk to them there, and there'll be a group, and I can answer one question that everybody else has. So it just streamlines the process.
Right.
And then the third method that we developed in the last 4 years to sell chestnuts is online sales. Okay. And one thing we did that really helps us is we advertise Chinese chestnuts. And I would say the bulk of my chestnuts that I sell online is to the Chinese community all over the United States. We sell in 46 states. We're not allowed to sell in Washington, Oregon, and California. They have specialized rules, and we're not set up to sell in them states.
Gotcha.
And it grows every year. We pretty much send everything through the post office right now. what we sell on the internet is a little higher price because there's more work involved in packaging and then transporting the packages to the post office. We only ship on Mondays because there's a lot of variability in delivery times through the post office. So if we ship on a Monday, about 80% of the chestnuts will get there on Wednesday or Thursday, and then 10% on Friday, and the rest of them on Saturday. And occasionally we'll get some held over to the next Monday. The internet part of our sales is really growing. It went from 5% to 2 years ago. It was over 20%.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do that's kind of unique, I'll pick out at the end of the season, I got so many orders I can't fill. I'll pick out 5 people and I'll just send them free chestnuts. And they're maybe a pound or 2 a piece, and I don't charge them anything. That's kind of my way of getting the word out and treating people to the experience of a chestnut, and hopefully they'll talk to their friends, and the next year, we'll get increased sales from that. One of the biggest issues with sending chestnuts through the mail is shrink with chestnuts because they're a water-based nut.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we sell 20 pounds to a box. I put 20 and a half pounds in the box. And if it takes more than 2 days in the mail, they'll lose a half a pound. And we got complaints that the weights weren't right. And so we went to a perforated plastic bag. And now we market everything through the post office in that kind of a bag. Now the problem is if it takes over 2 days, there may be a little white mold that shows up on the surface of the chestnuts. And so we communicate to people that they can either wipe it off, they can mix a little bleach water and soak them in that, and then rinse them off. Internal mold is a lot different than outside mold. And this isn't a big problem, but it's it's like anything. You solve a problem and another problem comes along.
Right.
And so that's an issue we have to deal with. We put a little flyer in the box when we send it, telling people how to clean their chestnuts before eating. So hopefully, we aren't getting a lot of negative feedback since we went that way.
Gotcha. So when a customer gets a 20-pound box, could you kind of talk through, because most of your customers obviously have some familiarity with chestnuts, but the rest of the population maybe doesn't. Can you just kind of give an overview of how customers should be handling these chestnuts when they get them, how to prepare them, cure them, take care of them before they eat them?
In the flyer we put in, or in conversations I have over the phone with them, I tell people they need to refrigerate chestnuts. If you don't refrigerate them, they're going to dry out and you're going to lose weight. And they're after, over time, if you leave them out for a couple weeks, they're going to dry out. They're going to be hard to eat. So I tell people you can, if you're going to eat something in the next few days, you can leave them out. They'll age that way. And when chestnuts age, they turn the carbohydrates into sugar. And that's what makes the chestnuts sweet. And so you do want a little aging before you eat them. So I tell people to refrigerate them, and then when they get ready to cook them, because they're a water-based nut, you have to score the nut. You have to take a knife and put an X on the nut before you cook them. And like I said, most people roast them. Some people put them on a cookie sheet in the oven. They have to score the nuts that way at 220 degrees for like 20 minutes. Or you can put them in a microwave. You have to score them first. You can put a pound in a bowl. It takes about a minute to cook them that way. Then over time, when you need more chestnuts to eat, you can take them out of the refrigerator, let them age for half a day or a day after you take them out of the refrigerator, and start the process all over. After the chestnuts have been aged 2 to 3 weeks, you can freeze them in the shell that way, but you can't freeze a chestnut before they age. The way you tell if they're aged, If you take the chestnut between your forefinger and your thumb and it's spongy, there's an air pocket in there, that means they've been aged. If it's still hard as a rock, it means it hasn't been aged. And so you can cook. What a lot of people do, as soon as they get the chestnuts, they will cook cook and peel the chestnuts and put in the refrigerator what they're going to eat in the next 30 days, and then they freeze the rest of them. If you have cooked the chestnuts, then you can freeze them.
Gotcha.
And the longer you freeze them, the more they're going to convert the starch into the carbohydrates into sugar, and the sweeter they're going to be. I found that with my own experience.
Huh. So you just pull them out of the freezer and let them thaw out, and they're ready to eat, or do you have to do anything else?
Yep. Let them thaw out. It doesn't take long, Yep. Let them thaw out for about an hour, and you can recook them, or you can eat them, cold like that.
Mm-hmm.
Either way.
The supply chain is, given the demand that you've got, is there like a big glut of new production coming in soon, or how's the supply looking for the next 5-10 years?
Well, since 2017, I would say, in our area, which is I call a 200-mile radius from where we're at, into Illinois, up to the Minnesota border, down the middle of Missouri, over to western Iowa. In our area, since 2017, I think there's 5,000 trees being planted every year or more. There is a lot of interest in chestnuts. I see our area being the focal point of chestnut production going forward. I don't see any type of this much planting of new trees anywhere else in the United States. Wow. I mean, people are planting new trees across the country, but not to the extent they are in the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one reason for that is we have the climate, we have the best soil, we have young people that maybe have 10 acres or more, and they're looking for a way to get some income off of that, and the chestnut certainly works. One thing that really helps the chestnut market is that it's very intensive the first 3 years after you plant a tree. To keep the tree alive, you've got to water it. You've got to make sure it's the weeds are kept away from it. Keep the animals away from it. There's a lot of work. It's not like planting a walnut or an oak tree. There's a lot of maintenance to a tree first 3 to 5 years. And then it takes about 10 years for you to break even in this business. You'll start getting chestnuts on the 5th year, but you really don't get enough to pay for your time until about the 8th to 12th year, somewhere in that time frame. Mm-hmm. So I always tell people it's a 10-year payback. You're investing a lot of money, and it takes 10 years to get it back.
So the size of the chestnuts, are you finding that there's a certain market preference for? I see on the website you sell small, medium, large, extra large. Is there a?
Well, that's a good question, because when I first started, I didn't know if I was going to be able to get rid of all the sizes. The most common size that people want is the medium and large. And after the first year, I priced them both the same because they're so close that if I run out of one size, I can interchange with the other size, and people are happy. Mm-hmm. The medium to large chestnut is the easiest size chestnut to roast. And I mean that because when they roast them, they want all the nuts to be cooked at the same time. And with that size of chestnut, you can roast them over an open fire, and they're all going to be complete. They're all going to be completely cooked at the same time. Now, the small chestnut, when you roast them, they tend to burn because there's not as much mass to them. And the extra large chestnuts don't tend to roast evenly. When you get into that size of chestnut, the shape is different. Some of them are round, some are oblong. Some of them are even larger than an extra large. You get all kinds of variability, and they don't roast evenly. So The bulk of our customers want the medium to the large chestnut. What we found is there's ethnic groups that love the small chestnut. They think they are sweeter, and the reason they're sweeter is because there's not as much mass and they convert to sugar a lot faster than the other size chestnuts. The other size chestnuts will be just as sweet, but they're going to, like the extra large, would take 2 to 3 weeks of aging in order to be comparable to the small chestnut. So there's people that like the small chestnut, and then we found ethnic minorities, specifically the Greek community, that like the extra large chestnut. It tends to keep longer. You tend to get more chestnut when you consume it. So from their perspective, you're getting more chestnut meat per serving. We don't do much with grocery stores. I haven't got into that, but when we started, we probably sold 75% of our chestnuts to grocery stores. But what we found is there's an avenue to the consumer that we tapped into. We can charge more for the consumer. We don't have to go through a grocer. One of the issues with grocers is if we sell them 1,000 pounds and they sell them over 10 days, the last few days the bags may not weigh 25 pounds, and so they want me to reimburse them for the shrink.
Right.
And with the customer, you don't have to get into that because when you sell them 25 pounds, they get 25 pounds.
Right.
And so we went from 75% to about 5% of our sales now is to grocery stores for the price reasoning and for the negative feedback reasoning.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
So I try to keep my finger in the grocery business because I know down the road when we get more volume, we're going to have everybody involved in order to sell all the chestnuts. And so I eat some of my profit by selling to a few grocery stores, but that's not something I do on a wide scale.
Yeah. So the harvest comes in September, October. Have you pretty much cleared everything out in a couple of weeks, a month? Are you sold out by the end of the year? How's that work?
Well, we start taking orders in August. We don't sell many chestnuts until October because we don't get that many in until about October 1st.
Uh-huh.
And we try our business plan is to sell fresh chestnut. We're not in the holiday market. And so my goal is to be sold out by the 5th of November every year. And so far we've met that.
Yeah.
And we advertise, we have 1,800 customers or more. I got people I can call that has maybe bought a bag. I'll call them and ask them if they would like another bag because our supply is a little heavier than what we thought. And I very seldom get turned down. So we don't have any problem getting rid of the chestnuts since I've been doing this. And our goal again is to be sold out by November 5th.
Do you think if you had supply during the holiday season, you would sell more? Is there an interest there if you had the supply and availability, or can you even store them fresh long enough in good enough condition to meet that market?
Well, I think there's interest there. The only thing they know about that group of people know about chestnuts is the Christmas song, chestnuts roasting on an open fire.
Right.
And if
Bing
you've
Crosby,
ever been to New York, City, on almost every street corner they roast chestnuts. And that was my first experience with chestnuts. You can buy chestnuts in New York City just about anywhere in the metro area. And, all types of people are buying them.
Yeah.
So I know there's a market for them. It's just a matter of advertising. And, we may even have to do roasting seminars to have like taste tests for people to experience it. I mean, it's not going to be simple because they don't have a history of eating a chestnut, but I'm fully confident that we can mature that market if our supply gets big enough and we can do some advertising. But right now we don't have to do any advertising, and honestly, I don't think we'll have to do any advertising for at least 20 years.
Right,
That's something way down the road.
Yeah. How much do you know about what's going on in other parts of the country? Like what's happening in Michigan?
I belong to the Chestnut Growers of America. We meet once a year. We have about 100 members. And we go over production issues, marketing issues. Our strong point, one of the things we put a lot of time in the last 2 years is what you talked about earlier, the cleaning of the chestnut when they come in. Mm-hmm. Because we're all small right now, but it's going to get bigger, and I'm sure the FDA or whoever the policing authority is going to come down and mandate we do some things different. Sure. But with that said, the people in Michigan grow a different type of chestnut than we grow in Iowa and Illinois and Missouri. It's what I call a older hybrid. They produce a lot bigger nut. I would say 75% of their nuts, from my understanding, are the extra large chestnut. Their marketing plan is different than mine. They market to, they actually have a hulling machine where they can capture the chestnut inside the shell, and then they sell the chestnut and the chestnut flour to companies that way. They also wholesale chestnuts in the big metro areas. I don't know if they do a lot of retail selling. That I think they do some, but I get the feeling that it's more wholesale and more processed nuts. And that marketing plan works for them. Their chestnut, from people that know chestnuts, tastes different than ours. We compete in Chicago with them in some areas, and the feedback I get is people think our chestnuts are sweeter. And so I don't want to be biased. I'm just giving you feedback of what our customers tell us, and so there must be something to that. Yeah. But they produce a good chestnut. I don't mean to say they don't have a good chestnut. They produce good chestnuts, and they're the people that buy theirs obviously love the taste of them. And so it just comes down to a preference in people. It's just like do you buy wheat bread or whole white bread or some other kind of bread? You know, it's all in the preference of the customer.
Yeah, right. So how about on the west? Oh, go ahead.
And they grow a lot of chestnuts in the Ohio area. That's kind of where the industry, the Chinese chestnut industry started back in the 1980s. I'm not sure their climate is as conducive to production as ours is in the Midwest, but they sell a lot of chestnuts. They're all Chinese chestnuts as far as I know, and we have customers that interchange between theirs and ours, and from everything I've heard, their taste is very similar to ours. But their growth area isn't anywhere near what ours is here. Yeah, right. And then you got chestnuts in California. That's a whole different market. And they use different hybrids in California and Washington State out there. They sell pretty much on the West Coast. You know, like I said earlier, we're not allowed to sell into California because of quarantine issues with fresh produce. Yeah. But their land is a lot higher priced out there. They're a little slower getting into the chestnut business. I see that business in California expanding. Right now, there are a lot of walnuts and almonds out there, but I see some of that being converted into chestnuts. In time, I see that being a bigger market, but not right now. And then you have a scattering of chestnut growers through Pennsylvania and the Carolinas and Florida. And when I say scattering, there may be, half a dozen growers in those states. It's nothing major. Yeah. And they have their markets on the East Coast. The East Coast market is huge, and I just started getting into that a couple years ago. I can't begin to say we could sell all our chestnuts in New York City if I wanted to. Sure. But we're based in the Midwest, and my clientele's in the Midwest. There's a lot of room for growth on the East Coast, and they will pay a lot more per pound than the people in the Midwest are paying right now. So That's a big market that we haven't captured yet, but it's on the horizon, and I see that being conducive to keeping our pricing strong, because I tell people that our prices may be a little high, but we sell throughout the United States and we can get rid of them. And so, I don't raise my prices 50 cents a year. I raise them maybe 10 to 20 cents a year, and we've been doing that since I started. And so we're slowly getting up to, what I think is reasonable price for our chestnuts.
Just going back a little bit on the processing side and working with the growers, when they bring in a batch of hazelnuts, I'm sorry, I keep mixing the two up because I work with hazelnuts all the time. When they bring in a batch of,
That's all right.
batch of chestnuts, will you go and do a grading process and pay them for just the good chestnuts, or how do you handle that? That's something that we've always kind of struggling with, is how to grade the hazelnuts.
Well, there is a lot of variability between the growers, and I have to say, once a grower has been with me a couple years, I don't have any problems. I get my message across. The growers that are new or in their second year, it's not uncommon for nuts to come in a little dirty or a little out of shape, or to have animal bites on them. And what I do is I warn them the first time that their chestnuts aren't up to my standards. And what we'll do with those chestnuts, I have an outside rack. We'll put them on an outside rack. We go through them, we clean them, and we sort out the bad ones. So I give them feedback. And the second time if it happens, I dock them a price. And I haven't had to do the third step, but the third step is if they continue to do it, I reject the chestnuts. And as much as I would hate to do that, because we can sell every chestnut we get, but they've got to be in good condition.
Right.
That's kind of how we've had people hold chestnuts in their basement and bring them in, and they have a little mildew smell to them. And I tell them that they need to keep turning them if they're going to do it that way, and they need to bring them in a lot sooner. And some of these people tend to be an hour away, so they try to make all their chestnut sales in 2 trips. And so what we do with them, we put them in cold water, and we let them sit there for a period of time, maybe 20 minutes, and then we rinse them off outside. And what I've learned over time is if you do that and sort them, the mildew smell goes away. I've checked the inside of the chestnuts, and they don't seem to be damaged. And so that's one issue we've had with some people. We've had people that don't store them in refrigeration and let them sit out, and if they come in warm, those folks I have to reject the chestnuts. If they come in and they're really hot, they make me really nervous, and I just can't sell a chestnut that's not in good shape. Right. And they understand, for the most part, that doesn't happen the second time. But there is a learning curve the first year, definitely a learning curve. Uh-huh. But most people understand when they're getting $3 a pound. I pay the growers about $3 a pound for their chestnuts, that if you bring in 100 pounds, that's $300. It's worth their time to make sure they're in good condition, because there is quite a bit of revenue. And going back into the poundage, we have 68 growers. I would say the average grower brings in about 1,000 pounds a year. We've got a half a dozen growers that bring in over 5,000, and then we have a smattering of maybe 10 or 15 growers that are just getting started that may bring in 200 or 300 pounds. Okay. So there's a lot of revenue to be gained. People understand where my position in order to market a chestnut, and quite honestly, it hasn't been a problem once I get past the second year.
Gotcha. Okay. And do they get paid based on the sizing too, or is there just a flat rate per pound?
No, I pay. Eventually, I'm going to go to a flat rate pricing, but right now, because of the volume we have, we sort by size, and I pay roughly $3 a pound for the medium, large, and extra large, and I pay roughly $2 a pound for the small chestnuts.
Okay.
because the small chestnuts are the hardest ones to sell. I don't have any trouble selling them, but I have to discount them $1 to get, to merchandise them. So that's why they're $1 less I pay the growers. And quite frankly, when I started this, I wasn't even paying $1 a pound for the smalls. I was paying about $2.20 a pound for the rest of the chestnuts, and now we're paying $3 a pound and $2 a pound for the smalls. So we've increased our prices about 75% since I've started, and the growers recognize what I'm doing for them, and it's a two-way street, and we have a good relationship, them and me, and everybody's excited about this market because I keep preaching that I just don't see an end in sight. And right now, like I said, we're paying $3. Who knows? In 5 years, I may be paying, $3.30, $3.40 a pound. It just depends on what I can gauge the market to be. But I don't see it going down.
Right. Yeah, and you're not even selling to the majority of the population, right?
No, we're not.
Midwest.
We're not selling to. People in my hometown, I may sell to a couple people, and they don't even know what a chestnut is. They come down there and the biggest mistake people made, and I made this too, is to eat a chestnut right off the tree. And the first year I did that, I'm thinking to myself, who eats these things? Because they had a real bland taste to them.
Yeah.
And so then after talking to some of my buyers, my customers, I found out you have to let them age. And so that most of the chestnuts, you want to have them age at least 7 days, maybe a little longer. And the longer you age them, the sweeter they come. Right now, the chestnuts I consume, I freeze them and I take them out in January, and it's like eating candy. You can't believe how sweet they are.
Huh. I got to get online and get an order in here. It's making me.
Well, I just shut my online sales down last night.
Oh no!
Because you'll have to text me. You'll have to text me, and I'll put. But I'm getting so many orders because it's going to be a short season this year. That storm that went through Iowa and parts of Illinois in August, it blew a lot of the chestnuts right off the tree.
Gotcha.
And so it was heartbreaking. And I went from thinking we were going to have a normal crop to now it's probably going to be about a half a crop.
Wow. Gotcha.
So every year is different.
Yeah. Yeah. One other question here on the production side. So if I'm a grower and I got to harvest every day, how long are the plants shedding nuts? So is it like a 2-week process? I got to be out there. Is it a week? How long is that window usually?
Well, let's say a normal person has 100 trees. Those trees will bear chestnuts over 6 weeks. You'll have 2 trees together. One will start on the 15th of September, and the other tree will start on the October 1st. It's amazing how that it is. Yeah. And so you harvest every day. If you got 100 trees, it's going to take you 6 weeks. You won't get done until the 25th of October.
Got it. And that's because these are all seedlings, so every tree out there is different. There's no clonal.
Yeah, they all have their own DNA, and it could be the same variety, but the difference in the variety is just like growing up in a family. You got three or four children, and they're all different. The same way with the chestnut trees.
Gotcha. Okay. So this isn't really something that an absentee landowner can just show up on a weekend, do their harvest, and go away. This is something they got to be on the farm pretty much all fall.
Yeah, and we quite frankly, we harvest twice a day. We harvest in the morning, and then we go out at night. Gotcha. Almost everybody that harvests uses a nut wizard. I would say 95% of our growers use a nut wizard. Mm-hmm. And so it's fairly simple to walk around the trees, harvest the chestnut, kick the burrs to the center of the tree so you don't have to go over them again. And quite frankly, kicking the burr to the center of the tree when you're harvesting at the end of the year tells you which trees are the highest producing because the evidence is sitting right there.
Hey, just curious, what are you using for sizing? In hazelnuts, we've gone to the drum sizers. Is that something similar that you're using? Or are you doing roller sizers or?
Yeah, we have we started with 35-gallon drums that we put holes in according to the size. And I just built a new sorting machine because I'm getting so much volume I can't keep up. machine I got now will process about 200 pounds an hour. The one I'm building will process about 1,000 pounds an hour.
Got
And
it.
it's stainless steel, but it's still on the roller concept.
Yeah. Okay. So how big are you able to get? Is there going to be a point where there's going to need to be other processing nodes that are doing the cleaning and sizing, and then maybe bringing them to you already resized? I mean, you've got to have some incredible refrigeration storage already, right?
Well, we've got a 17 by 16 foot walk-in cooler, and like I said, we don't keep much in there over a week, so
Sure.
we're rotating in and out of there.
Yeah.
But what I see happening in our operation is you can buy these used reefers and put a condenser on them, and you can back them right up. I got a dock. You can back right up to my dock. We can wheel stuff right into that, and it make it a lot simpler. It has a lot more capacity. That's the route I see going. I think with my current facility, we could process up to 1 million pounds. After that, I'm going to have to build another kind of building.
Gotcha.
But that we're looking to upgrade. Quite frankly, it's a privately owned company, and I'm trying to make it cash flow, and trying not to get ahead of myself. And the last 2 years have been a challenge. Last year we had so much rain that chestnut trees don't do good in rain, and a lot of rain.
Yeah,
And
right.
because the roots got to have air, and so we went from processing 100,000 pounds in 2018 to about 20,000 pounds last year.
Mhm.
And now we've had this storm go through here, and we're looking to process maybe 50,000 this year. So I got to get past these last 2 years, and then we're going to upgrade our facility. We're going to incorporate some type of a bleach system or a cleaning system with
Mhm.
water before we bag them. I mean, there's a lot of things we're going to do, but I'm 68 years old. I've been behind the 8 ball financially in my life. I never want to be there again, so I'm doing
Sure.
these things as I see I can as I go through every year.
Yeah. Awesome.
Brought to you by the University of Wisconsin-Madison Division of Extension.